Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 2019 Cross Country Fall Sports Meeting. New this year, instead of holding an all parent guardian athlete meeting, I have decided to try and do a little bit of a webcast. That way, everyone has the convenience of completing this on their own time. So, hopefully, I go through and explain everything well enough and you don't have any questions. However, if you do have questions, please do not hesitate to call me at my cell phone number listed here and or send me an email message. Today's point of emphasis will be the following 6 items, and I will go through these in the following order. So please feel free at any time to pause, maybe rewind and uh, listen to what I happen to go over, or jot down any notes you have, and once again, just contact me on those. So, before I begin, I would like to thank all parents and guardians and athletes for uh, putting forth their best effort and giving us the best summer turnout that we've ever had. It was unbelievable. Coach Brown and I, some nights, we would count almost 40 kids at practice. So um, it doesn't guarantee success, like I mentioned, all kids, but it does minimize the chance that we will not achieve our goals. So once again, thank you, and we're much appreciative of all your efforts. So let's begin. First thing I'd like to go through is some of the expectations and philosophies that we have here in our program. First of all, I'm going to paraphrase a lot of what I have here, but that first opening paragraph, it does state that I believe that extracurricular activities are just an extension of the classroom. And whatever we expect of our students in the classroom isn't any different than what we expect from our athletes. Just like students in the classroom, they know how I grade, how I handle homework, how I assess. Uh, Cross country athletes should not have the slightest doubt of what the rules are, what the expectations are, how they make varsity, and how they earn a varsity letter or points for that matter. So hopefully, as I go through this here, um, I'm able to hit the huge points of emphasis, and you know, uh, there's a clear expectation to start our season. Uh, the first item on this handout is just real simple. We start practice here before school starts for the high school, Monday, August 19th. For middle school, it's Monday, August 26th. As Coach Brown always says, if the meeting starts at 7, that means you need to be here at 6:50. I'm just going to go real quickly because you'll notice I have our team website. I'm going to bring that up real quickly. If you ever have a question on times, locations, please go to our website and look at that date. What I try and do is not only post the time but also where we are meeting. If we ever have changes due to weather, I'm going to rely on Coach Brown using the Remind 101 app. So, uh, you know, communication is always important, and understanding, uh, that being timely is just as important as putting in the commitment and time to run. That also means being prepared for practice. Two things we always expect is that you have a water bottle and that you have your own watch. Number two, real quickly, is just checking in. Many of you see Coach and I greeting athletes as they come. If you would happen to leave practice due to visiting with the athletic trainer, all we ask is that you please check back in with us. I'm just going to mention these once because the um, violation um, discipline is the same for each of the rules. The first time, the athlete is reminded, apparent contact will be made, and then a one meet suspension will occur. The second time, obviously, the athlete is reminded, and the parent contact is also made, and then we have a 2-meet suspension. And then the third offense, obviously at this point, there's something habitual going on, and at this point, we feel that the athlete hasn't quite made the commitment to our program, and that subsequently, with the third offense, you are dismissed from the program. Obviously, once we get to that level, the athletic director does get involved, and we have never ever had to go to a second or third offense, but I just want to go through these because the actions becoming from coach are going to be the same for all of these. For number 3, if an athlete reports late to practice, we've mentioned this many times in subsequent meetings that our motto is family, school, sports. So if you're late for any reason, obviously from a teacher, get a note. From a parent, we need a note, whether it's some family emergency. And if you can get to practice, just you know get that note, obviously, and then be able to get to practice within 20 minutes. Item number 4, the only legitimate excuse from practice is a excused absence from school. So if you're sick, if you have a medical um, appointment, you're going to need to, show proof of that with us. And there's no penalty that's ever taken. It is also important to note that I don't have it on here, but there's always questions that if a varsity athlete is injured, does an athlete miss their, or is an athlete removed from their spot? I'm going to get into that more detail later, but the quick answer to that is no. No one is ever going to lose a varsity spot unless you're obviously beaten out by another runner or you have an unexcused absence. Number 5, all athletes are expected obviously to sign and follow the code of conduct, which I'll get into. Number 6, we just ask that all athletes wear the assigned uniform and the warm-ups. Obviously, when they get on the bus, while they're at the meet, and while they're traveling on the bus to get back. So, put it short and sweet. You wear the assigned uniform and warm up when you get on until through the duration to when you get off. Number 7. This has happened in years past, so I really want to take a moment to explain this. If for any chance you miss a team bus, whether it be you didn't see the time that you were supposed to be released or you overslept uh, for that particular race, you might get a ride by a parent or another guardian. You will not be allowed to compete in that event. And if you are a varsity athlete, you have lost your spot. Now, when I get into letter points, I will also get into, yes, as a consequence, you're running a JV race, but you still are able to earn a varsity point later on through bumping, which I will get into. So you can kind of read through that and maybe even pause the video and read that to yourself. And, if you still have further questions, an email or phone call, I might easily be able to go through that and explain it in more detail. Number 8, we've never had to get to this, but any actions that are non-becoming of a WD cross-country runner can result in disciplinary action, and some of that might actually result in the removal of letter points. And I assure you, none of that will ever be done without a parent contact, guardian contact, or the approval of my athletic director. So, those are the 8 points of emphasis for motivating with our rules. I will be sending a hard copy with all of the athletes on Monday back home so that you have one of those. And then I will also have in that packet have the following. This is just the philosophy and rules agreement, which is the sheet I just went over. So I will need the athlete to sign it, as well as a guardian and a parent. And athletes, before that is returned to me, I am asking that you develop some team goals. So if you're a male athlete, obviously we'll be meeting with the males. We would like some input from you and come up with 3 goals, and then the team is going to agree upon 3 goals that we can create and adhere to for the season. This handout, if I go back to my original PowerPoint, the philosophy agreement is due on August 23rd, and that is the same day as Picture Day. So, points 1 and 2 I have covered. Now, what I'd like to move on to is item number 3, which is how you earn a varsity letter. And once you look at the following, you'll see that the first point of emphasis is that in order to earn a varsity letter, there is the requirement of 10 letter points. Now, you can see as you read through this here, there are a number of ways for an athlete to earn a letter point other than just being on the top 7. First of all, we always encourage our athletes to recruit new members into our program. We have had it before where athletes have recruited more than 2, so what we've decided to do is cap that off. And if you were to recruit 2 athletes to the high school program, you would earn a possibility of 2 points. Perfect attendance. Can't put enough emphasis on attending. However, notice absolutely no absences, and that does include excused absences. So if you were to be ill or if you had a doctor's appointment, it's excused, obviously. However, the 2 points, you will be unable to earn those for a letter point. The one I wanted to mention was this one. It says, I race on JV and bump a varsity runner for a spot. A varsity race will always have 7 varsity runners. And if you are one of those 7 and you start a race, you actually physically start it, you earn a letter point. No matter what your time is, no matter what happens during the race, you have earned that point, but you have to start the race. If a JV runner were to run a faster time than a varsity runner, that is how a JV runner can earn a varsity point. So, in theory, if we had 7 varsity runners and 7 JV runners, we could theoretically be giving 14 letter points if all 7 JV runners were to bump a varsity runner. We do have 10 varsity races, and then we'd have the 11th varsity race would be the first race in the playoffs. So just by default, if you run every varsity race, you're going to earn a letter. There are those athletes whomever that are kind of, the 5, 6, and 7, and they're battling with some JV runners. This is where I like to have some flexibility in having other athletes earn a letter point. You'll notice that we give 1 letter point for B honor roll and 2 letter points for A honor roll. And when we get to the end of the cross country season, you'll note that I put down that those students will be required to have teacher signatures around the end of the season to verify that. So even though it's not an end of a term, we still, with our motto being family school sports, if an athlete has all A's at that time, I'm considering that to be an A honor roll student. Also, we have done this in the past. We have had students submit community service projects that will need to be approved by the coaching staff, and obviously that's something that needs to be approved before you do the community service. Very important that I know students with National Honor Society are doing community service in the summer, or they may have done it last spring. This has to be something that you are currently working on during the season. And then that last item, I know I mentioned that when I went through my motivating with rules. As a coaching staff, we do reserve the right to take away letter points, but once again, that is not going to be done without parent contact and without the approval from Mr. Mack, the AD. So, just going back to the point of emphasis, I have now gone through the first three. What I would like to now do is move on to the high school code of conduct. To find the high school code of conduct, if you don't have a hard copy, what you will need to do is go to your browser and you will need to enter the sdwd.k12.wi.us website. And once you are there, you will need to move over to the sign in box and then select the Wisconsin Dells High School. Once you are here, you will need to hover over the Athletics tab and then please select Welcome to Athletics. Once that pops up, here are any of the forms that your child may need to, at some point in the year, turn in. Um, what I want to do right now is just focus on the WDHS Code of Conduct. This is just a PDF copy, so I'm not necessarily going to go through all of this. There are 2 points of emphasis that I would like to highlight, however. So I'm not going to go over the philosophy, the general rules. Please feel free at this point, if you're someone who is very detail oriented and likes to read everything, pause the video and then just go through each of these items. If you have paused, welcome back. The first item of emphasis I would like to focus on is under the miscellaneous policies, and that's under transportation. Just like last year, when an athlete is attending a meet, whether it be middle school or high school, that athlete is allowed to leave with only the parent, not someone's best friend's parent. We will need to have a visual of that parent, and what we will have at our team tent is a clipboard for that parent to sign that child out. So I know last year it worked very slick, and hopefully we have success again with that this year. Just skimming through, it's probably important for you to take a moment and read through the academic eligibility on your own. And as I scroll through, become familiar with the semester grade check. Coach Brown and I will go through this in more detail as we start to go through the start of the school year. I'm going to continue to proceed on, and what I wanted to do was just take a moment to talk about the school attendance, athletic attendance strikes. This probably comes up more than anything in the sport that I coach, and you'll notice letter A under Roman numeral 5, it says if a student has an unexcused absence at any time during the school day, he or she is not eligible to practice, perform, or compete. Now, the operative word there is unexcused. If you have an excused absence, that has to be turned in the day that it occurs, and I can allow that athlete to practice or even compete. This is, I think it was very clear last year, and we had a few questions, but the only question that still was coming up was the strikes. If you get a strike for that particular day, you're not able to compete or play in a game. And then you are allowed, it's really important as I scroll through here, Uh, yes, letter E under Roman numeral 5. Students will be allowed to have 3 athletic attendance strikes per quarter without penalty. So, beginning with the fourth academic attendance strike and every subsequent athletic attendance strike thereafter, the student is not eligible to practice, perform, or complete or compete on that same day. So that can get a little confusing. Like I said, it's probably best that you pause and read and go through that. I will tell you on the first day of practice, um, I will make it a point of emphasis to have all the athletes down, and I will go through this in some very stressful importance because it can be confusing. I'm just scrolling through here. There are no other points that I'm going to really take the time to go through. It doesn't mean that they're not important, but just for video time's sake, I'm going to skip on to the next point of emphasis, which is the, if I open that up, that is the code of conduct. Now, I will give a hard copy of this to all athletes on Monday. It's actually blue in color. If you see, I believe it's a pink one, that is the middle school code of conduct. And you can see that there's a number of places here where the student, parent, guardian have to sign. That was page 1. Page 2 is the athletic participation consent. When you go on to page 3, this is the parent and athlete agreement. And then number 4 deals with the concussion permission slip. So once again, this is a 4-page document. The athletic department is set on the following date. This is a hard date, and the date is this. The Code of Conduct Agreement must be signed and returned no later than, once again, August 23rd, which is the Friday. So that Friday before pictures, I will be collecting, or I will be collecting any athlete's philosophy agreement or code of conduct that has not been turned in. The last item before I conclude today is the transportation waiver. And just give me a moment here and I will bring that up. The transportation waiver, this is really important that you take a moment to go over this because on Wednesdays when school is in session, the high school athletes will be going to the Wellness Center, and we will this year all meet down at my room at the middle school, just outside in the parking lot there, in order to get enough equipment rounded up. If obviously athletes have their license, those athletes will drive. However, some of the athletes who do not have license would like to ride with members of the team. I can only allow that to happen if you give consent and approval for your child to ride with that athlete. If you are not giving permission for that child to ride, then Coach Brown and I will have either 1 or 2 vans set up, and we will be transporting them to the Wellness Center in a district vehicle. This here, you're probably wondering, if I go back to my point of emphasis sheet, why am I having this a different return date? This is actually Wednesday, August 21st. This will be the first day that we will be going to the Wellness Center, and we're going to meet at the Wellness Center. And if students do not, or athletes do not have a ride, they're going to have to meet me at the middle school at 6:45. So if you're going to allow your child to leave the Wellness Center with someone from the team, once again, you're going to have that waiver signed. I can't stress that enough. As we conclude the fall sports meeting, the last thing that I wanted to go over was the following. I probably should have mentioned this at the beginning. However, in order to access this, I'm going to put a URL link here, and you're going to have to put that into the YouTube search box. Once I render this video, I will make a little note of that. And one last item you will notice, hopefully a reminder has gone out by the time you see this, but the 2019 cross country apparel options are available on the Sports Impressions online store. So what you will need to do is just copy paste this URL into a different or a new URL window, and you should have a view of the items that we have selected. Everything is done online, so you purchase right at Sports Impressions, and then Sports Impressions will notify you, and you'll be able to pick up at your earliest convenience. So this concludes the 2019 fall sports meeting. Please, once again, do not hesitate to contact me. We are looking forward as a coaching staff to work obviously with your child, but I think with all the hard work that these kids have put in, I think we're going to see the benefits here as we start the season, and hopefully once we get into October in the championship season, we have some huge success. So thank you once again, and let's have a great season.